Who's familiar with hypnosis? Is this like, I think for counselors, like a lot of counselors that we run into kind of know about hypnosis or have had experience with it, but is it totally foreign to everyone in this room?
Yes.
Yes, great. Does anybody have some tangential experience with hypnosis? Are we starting from?
Stage hypnosis?
What's your?
Freud. That's all.
Freud. Oh, just read it in the books.
Yes.
Yeah. Great.
I'm dressed appropriately.
Yeah. I wore my dream shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do dream interpretation. That's like my claim to fame on social media. And so
I've heard of that.
the dream interpretation stuff.
Him?
Is
Yeah.
that a part of hypnotherapy?
Dreams use the same symbolism as hypnosis does, and so that's why it kind of translates. So, you heard about dream interpretation stuff?
Just from like a family friend.
That's great.
She's always like, "What did you dream about?"
Yeah.
She's like, look, and she's like, "Oh, you dreamt about alligators." Someone's like, I forgot what she said.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
My goal online with social media is to kind of like reclaim dream interpretation from like spiritual metaphysical stuff and like bring it back to the science that it like. My introduction to it was like Freud and Jung, so it's like it kind of started as a science, but then it sort of drifted off, and so I'm trying to bring it back. And so I've got like a TikTok really blew up for me during COVID, and I've got a YouTube show now where I bring people on and we do like an hour-long session using dreams and how that looks to incorporate them into counseling, just to try and like show like they're actually useful and this is how you could do it. So they do relate because the symbolism is the same, but we'll talk about hypnosis today. You can ask me about dreams sometime. It sounds good.
Has anybody heard of Jesse on TikTok?
So I will interject here, sorry. The director of operations at our site, Liz, was like fangirling over him because
Yeah.
he had found
All the
him
time.
All
the time.
All the time. She was like, she saw him, she came in later and she was like, oh my God, I started watching him and during COVID, and she was like,
That's when I made videos.
She was, and then I saw him at like a local Walmart, and I was so excited. I wanted to go and say hello. And she's very upset that I didn't get a picture of him already.
I'll have to come back. That's great.
I'm gonna text her and
Aw.
but I just called her out.
Thanks. That's great. I'm glad, man. I'm glad. It's been cool. Like, I don't know, the social media journey's been wild. So, yeah.
We're at Comic-Con doing a presentation there, and we're just like walking, and that happened, and it happens all the time.
You're the dream guy.
You're the dream guy.
That's good stuff, man. That's good stuff. Yeah, we'll go to the next one. Next slide here. We'll talk about what this is. So we work with hypnosis specifically for trauma. And so that's kind of what we're going to present today, is how hypnotherapy, sort of what it is and how it integrates specifically with trauma. We can go to the next one. But we'll introduce ourselves here for a minute, and we'll start with Zac.
Yeah.
Great.
So I actually started with Freud because I was educated in Switzerland, and Jung was not as Jungian. Like he did the Freud stuff for hypnosis, and then when I came here, I wasn't certified. So then I got certified so that I could do it because there's a lot of laws about that. And if anybody ever has any questions about that, that's my specialty and my
He's the
jam.
guy.
I love the technical side of keeping us safe. My first job was actually working at the UN in Geneva and debriefing with people coming back from peacekeeping missions. Did my air quotes. I really, really liked it. I wouldn't find out till much later that I'm on the spectrum, and the autism spectrum, and I think that my way of thinking about things made trauma something that everybody was like, Zac's great with this. Actually, I don't know if anybody remembers an agency that was in town, the Center for Drug-Free Living, that has not been around for a long time. But when I did my first internship, I had to redo all my internship stuff when I came to Florida. And I was working there, and it was very frustrating because as an intern, I had more experience working with trauma as far as hours goes than anybody that was at the agency. We're talking about substance use disorders. It's really tough to deal with substance use disorders without also dealing with trauma. And so I had another they threw me into the fire, because anybody that with trauma, they're just like, oh yeah, send them to Zac. And I had a caseload of, adolescents that were all very, very traumatized by a lot of stuff. And I'm like 23. But then I started.
After you got back.
Sorry?
You were so young.
Yeah.
Like you spent time abroad, and like you were back here in Florida redoing your internship at 23.
23, 24, yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Then I started business, HD counseling. It was a private practice, just a couple of people for a long time, and then we really went after Pulse and after trauma-focused hypnotherapy started, turned into a group practice because of all the trauma work that I was teaching people. People wanted to work with me, especially because one of my responsibilities was being one of the people at the HQ after the shooting. Then my job was to make a lot of referrals and to do a lot of the work in getting people to where they needed to go, and families, and I even had the privilege of communicating with some of the families about the deceased. And the big problem that I had was that I was making all these referrals to people that I really didn't feel like had the experience working with especially violent trauma. Soon after that, we started working on trauma-focused hypnotherapy because it was a main methodology for me. And I believe that when you understand principles of hypnosis, even if you don't do trance work, it's still going to make trauma work so much easier. When you understand how we hypnotize, we say that traumatic events is a self-hypnosis. That's not a bad thing, and it's not something that I want to correct, to be clear. But there are hypnotic principles that go into every single traumatic event, and that just exacerbate the symptoms. I don't know what else is not on there yet.
To brag on Zac, man, like Zac's the person that when a counselor would get a client that the trauma was so bad or like so intense they didn't know what to do, send them to Zac.
Yeah.
And so it was like case after case of just like, I've been to 5 therapists, I've been to 6 therapists, and I can't stop. Like I can't sleep at night. They all get like to Zac. And that's you. I mean, that's how you like built your whole career. And so Zac really is the guy when it comes to that stuff, especially like really violent trauma. Seems to be something that you've had a lot of experience with and work really well with. And so from that, like the frustration, I think is kind of how we met. In order to help people find a system to help heal trauma, because a lot of people will get into the therapy room with somebody who's experienced trauma and then like be shocked, like, I don't know what to say, and they kind of freeze up. And then when a client has expressed that kind of story and that part of their story, and then they watch as this professional freezes up, like what do you think that does to reinforce like their feelings of brokenness? And so, it's kind of out of this shared passion that we're like, we have to teach something, because people going to therapy and then getting that response kind of further entrenches this belief of like, I'm unfixable. And I think both of us have found a lot of, fulfillment in this career by being able to help those who feel helpless and hopeless kind of find there is an answer out of this. But you have to not be afraid to go into some of those subconscious and traumatic parts of yourself. But if you can do that with bravery, you can make it through. And so that's what we're passionate to share. I guess we can go to the next one.
And also crisis intervention. I think that this is just to add to that. I think hypnosis is something that makes crisis intervention really a lot easier. We still communicate. She just sent me a really well. My ex-wife just sent me a referral for something involving what we're talking about right now. But just the other day we were talking about how she took the class years ago.
Yeah.
She is, yeah, I think she was in the second class.
I was teaching that class with you.
Yeah.
Before the X part of the wife.
Yeah. And she was talking about it as she works at Advent. I don't know what the program is.
She's a substance use navigator.
Substance use navigator?
Yeah, manager of behavioral health.
I don't know that I know what that means exactly.
So she oversees, so Advent has navigator teams that are set up for substance use. So if somebody's identified in the hospital that they have substance use disorder or they may possibly, they send out navigators to go intervene and try to get resources for them.
And she was telling me about a story about how she was working with somebody that was intoxicated and was also in crisis and showed up in the ED, and she was able to use hypnosis in the ED to both de-escalate the situation and get them where they needed to go. So for all intents and purposes, depending on what you want to do, I very much recommend just paying attention to trance work, especially if you're ever going to be involved in crisis intervention or de-escalation.
And there are so many students and graduates who take our course and may go on to not use hypnotherapy every day, but they still come back and tell us, they're like, we're so grateful and glad that we took the course, because understanding the hypnotic principles that make trauma so long lasting have helped us navigate through them, even if we're not formally using hypnosis. And that's been huge.
That's what you can do. Just ask Michelle to hypnotize you.
There you go.
We have a breakfast meeting next week. I'll ask her.
I'll tell her.
That's great. So co-founder of trauma-focused hypnotherapy with Zac, the school that certifies those under the Department of Health to practice hypnosis in the state of Florida. I own my own private practice too, called Lyon Counseling. I specialize a lot in complex trauma, so I work a lot with like dissociative identity cases or schizophrenia, some of those things like personality disorders that throughout the life, a series of traumas will sort of culminate in this constellation of symptoms that can be difficult to work through if you don't understand kind of how that trauma works. And so that's sort of ended up being my specialty. And part of that, when you have trauma, either PTSD or complex, one of the very first symptoms are the PTSD nightmares. And so my work in dream interpretation and working with nightmares as an avenue to kind of unlock the areas in that person that they need to focus on has been something I've found a lot of fulfillment in, and has helped a lot of individuals, because when you talk to a therapist about nightmares, sometimes they don't know what to do with it. And so I guess, both of us are really drawn to areas in the psychology field that there is a lack of information, that people don't know how to help their clients. And so it's like, we can fill those in, and we're excited to fill those in. You can find me on social media if you want. Lyon Mental Health is my tag on all the stuffs. You can see me talk about hypnosis and dreams. And we can go to the next one, I suppose. Let's talk about what hypnosis is. Do you want to start with that one?
Sure.
Great.
Well, you have the 4 stages, and I haven't memorized them yet. But
when we get to it, I'll get to it.
I like the 3 stages too. Imagine like your everyday life. I like to describe the basic, fundamental, most foundational aspect of hypnosis is 3 stages to this process. The first one is whenever there's a fixation, there's something that is of importance, whatever that is. Somebody just pulled in, everything from somebody just pulled in front of me. I don't like that. I'm mad. I would like to shake my fist at the gods. 2, I just got stabbed. What do I do? It's anything that is what we call depotentiating.
That'll definitely gain your attention.
Right.
Getting stabbed.
Right.
That'll do it.
You can't not pay attention to that thing.
Not really.
That depends on physical safety. That depends on emotional state. It depends on all of those things. But there's a fixation. There's something that is important in your outside world. And the more you pay attention to that thing, the harder it is to look away, emotionally or physically. And as we kind of develop that relationship with this thing that is external to us, that is just one way, a relationship. Now it's, I think it is important. It evolves or devolves, however you're going to define it, into the second stage, which is trance, which is where now it's become a two-way relationship. The more I think this thing is important, the more identity or relief or something else that it gives me. My favorite example of that is the one that we had a great laugh about the other day, which is we won this weekend.
Every presentation since then, we have used the football thing. We really have. It was so perfect.
They know that I'm like a big sports mom. My son plays football, and I'm a big Gator fan, so they're aware that. Yeah, they talked about the we won and how it's really not we, and I was like, oh, it just broke my heart. That ended right off.
That's a trance. We won. It's a trance because and that's not a bad thing.
No.
Just to be clear again, that's not a bad thing.
But when you call a trance out, it can feel embarrassing.
Yeah, it can.
Yeah. It's a great thing. You're such a great metaphor. I appreciate you.
Because it's an automatic process.
Yes.
And it's an unconscious process. And we don't realize that we're doing something that somebody else can see potentially if we're in that trance.
Yeah.
So we didn't do shit. They did something and they won. I know. But I get an identity connection with that thing in that space. I get excited. I get sad. I have a mutual relationship with it. And the longer we stay in that, the more we move into the last one, which is the stage of suggestibility, where people say things like, well, you know what a good fan would do. And we become easily susceptible to those things. Like, think about what comes up when I say things like, don't be a bad social worker. It's because we have that identity connection to what we do, and we've been given all of these suggestions about how to do that, and then it can hurt really bad if we have an unmet expectation there. So that's the basic fundamental aspect. You see examples of this all over the place between sports, religion, and politics. Those are the best ones. Is we won, we lost. Can you believe what they are doing? But anytime where there's a separation and then an identity connection. Get to trauma. This is something that we see all of the time. I'm a victim of SA. And what can happen is that we have such a strong identity association with that it actually exacerbates the symptoms. One of the best cases of where hypnosis is really powerful with trauma.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the only thing I'd add to that is that was so great. The only thing I'll add to it is maybe the high level picture of kind of like what the brain is doing as we try and understand like what hypnosis really is.
Yeah, that's the point of the slide, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I mean, but 2 levels. I mean, you're talking about the very specific trauma level, which we need to go over, but then also the higher level, just to round it out, is, it's kind of 2 parts of the brain, right? There's your thinking, conscious brain, and then there's what we call the unconscious. When we say unconscious, we just mean automatic processes. Some people kind of take that into a religious sense, but we're scientists, so I stay in that realm. Like, talk to your religious leader for his or her own advice. The conscious is what we use to kind of manipulate and interact with the world. Great metaphor of this is the first time you learn to drive a car, it takes a lot of brain power. You really got to think like, okay, all the different steps so I don't mess this up because it's dangerous. But then you do it so many times, it becomes integrated into your automatic process. You don't have to think about it. And there's a lot of things that we don't have to think about that are unconscious, like our amygdala function with our emotions, like our sensory processing. Those are all automatic centers. Your, brain stem, beating your heart, breathing your lungs, digesting your food, like these are all automatic things. That's what we mean when we say unconscious. And so the avenue that we interact with life is we have experiences, we consciously chew on them, and then they get integrated into a subconscious pattern. Because you can't think about all the things all at once. It's too much. You have to automate some systems.
And a lot of times when that's a traumatic event, that traumatic event gets integrated into those automatic systems. It's where it can be the chronic trauma.
Yeah. And so I think that's the only part that I would really want to add. When we are doing hypnotherapy, we are directly interacting and honestly bypassing the conscious to interact on the subconscious domain using particular language and metaphor patterns in order to do that. And that's really the sciencey answer to it.
And we lost this last weekend.
We did.
Oh man. I think we can go to the next one. That's okay. Yeah. Just for
Thank
the sake
you.
of time. That was great. But Zach, what is hypnosis not?
Yeah, a lot of times people will see the stage stuff, somebody like a chicken or doing something weird or something like that. The stage magic is it's really picking on somebody and it's really manipulative. It's not therapeutic. Just like you can use your skills as a therapist to manipulate people using your emotional intelligence, hypnotherapists can manipulate people, and it is, in my opinion, according to the 491 board, it's
Great
unethical
reframe, yes.
and should not happen. There is a space in our society for hypnotists that use the same principles for a stage magic. But especially if you are licensed under the Department of Health, that is not something that you will be able to do.
Right.
And it's not control. I've had many clients get to a place, I don't know where they are, we're going deeper, and then they are passed out, drooling on themselves. They look like this, and this is literally what it looks like. Are we done? And I'm like in the middle of a sentence because they went somewhere in their unconscious mind where their unconscious mind said, I've had enough. This is as far as we can go right now. We need to do some cognitive processing before we do any more unconscious work. And their eyes are open like they just woke up and their alarm is screaming at them.
Yeah, wide awake.
Sorry?
Wide awake, yeah.
Wide awake.
Yeah. So I think there's that fear about like brainwashing a client or taking control over them because that's kind of the magic of the stage, right? Like when somebody does a card trick, it looks like the card disappeared here and appeared there. But we all know it's sleight of hands. Maybe I don't know exactly how it happened, but I know that cards don't disappear and reappear. It's the same thing with somebody who's doing stage magic for hypnotism. It looks like mind control because that's a fun thing to play out on stage. It's very exciting, it's just showy. That's not what's actually happening. You don't control somebody's mind like that. So I think there's a lot of fear that can come into it, both from the client side and the therapist side. But that's a gross misunderstanding of what hypnosis actually is. I'll also say, maybe appropriate for this slide, a lot of people think hypnosis is the same as like meditation, but they're actually very, very different. They both operate on the subconscious part of the brain, but meditation eliminates distractions and focuses in on one topic, maybe a phrase, maybe a sound like the singing bowls or an ohm. Hypnosis operates the same way, but in the opposite direction. We're actually creating a state of concentration and relaxation in order to invite all of those repressed thoughts, images, emotions in so we can see what the conscious brain is kind of like pushing away, but that is actually the avenue towards healing. So a good distinction there too. We'll probably go to the next one, yeah? Cool. Yeah. Ooh, you want to start this one too?
Yeah,
Draw
sure.
One? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe one of the things that people have said, even in the presentations when we're talking about this, is the thing that they take away from the most is just our definition of trauma. And I really like to share that with anybody. You can take this, steal it, use it. I think that it's really important. We find a lot of even very skilled therapists can't define trauma outside of defining it by its symptoms.
Makes me upset.
Yeah. It's not that. The trauma is not the symptom. What we say is that it is a non-consensual ripping away of an identity.
That's the definition.
It's a non-consensual ripping away of an identity. One day, I'm safe, people love me, I'm okay, something happens, and then the next day, not only am I not safe, but the world is not safe, and everybody that I knew could be unsafe. And so that's the thing that when we're trying to not just relieve the symptoms, we're trying to get at the deeper reason for those symptoms, which I think is a good reason. We have to start dealing with that. I don't know if that was a student, but I don't mind if they come in.
Okay.
Sometimes I look for empty classrooms to study.
Nice. That makes sense.
That's the student.
Hey, come on in.
Come on in. But think about that when you're working with people in your own personal life, with family members and all of that. Start paying attention to, and it will make a lot of sense when you pay attention to what was this. Is this about the actual thing that happened? No, it's about what identity was ripped away from them non-consensually at that moment of the act. So.
Yeah, well said.
That's it, and that could be big T trauma or complex trauma. Do you want to explain that, the erosion of complex trauma?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Like I said, the brain processes things through experiences, conscious thought, and then integrates that subconsciously. But sometimes there are experiences that are so big, we don't have any sort of framework upon which to begin organizing them. Like sometimes those experiences are so far outside of what I ever expected could happen that I don't even know where to begin thinking about it consciously. And so in those sort of dangerous moments, that event sort of bypasses the conscious, and it's just like too big. Subconscious is bigger, so I'll just hold it down there. And I mean, there's a literal parts to that too. Like if you think about the prefrontal cortex, it's about 12% of your brain, and the other parts are 88%. So if you ever heard that myth that like we only use 10% of our brain, that's kind of the fragment of truth it comes from. It is about 10% that's conscious. The rest is subconscious, but we use all of our brain. It goes right in. And so when I see complex trauma, what it really looks like is somebody sitting across from me in my office, and they'll talk about some kind of, sexual assault that happened. And the brain does its best, but it makes kind of a dangerous trade. In a situation where things were outside of my control and there was nothing I could do, it was chaos, the brain doesn't like that because that's dangerous. And so it would rather believe that I could have prevented it and it was my fault, so I can feel in control rather than accept that sometimes bad things happen to good people who don't deserve it. And so what that looks like is this person telling me their story and they're like, well, but I shouldn't have been wearing that outfit, or I should have known to park in a more well-lit area. And you can see in that moment both the pain of blaming themselves for it, but also the solace or the sliver of hope that says, but if I can just blame myself, it means that I can keep myself safe from it ever happening again.
Can I interrupt real quick?
Please.
And if you really pay attention to that, that's what that point of fixation was, that turned into a trance to make this person feel safe, and then they become highly suggestible. It's all my fault. And so if we argue with the suggestion that they're holding on to that is a part of their identity, we can actually then re-traumatize them by saying, it's not your fault, it's not your fault, it's not your fault. If that's the I was using this as a metaphor earlier. It's not that I just really like water bottles. It's if they're attached to that and that's what's keeping them safe, we can effectively traumatize them again and again and again when our motivation for arguing with them about that subject is to relieve them of that pain. So it gets really, really tricky
and so then
at that moment.
We get deeper and more intense, or they'll go the other way. And I see therapists make the other mistake, which is they won't say it's not your fault. They'll try and help them feel more resilient and give them more resources, which if you think about the subconscious implications of that, like, oh, well, let me give you more resources on like self-defense and safety and like different things you can learn about, like what people look for when they're trying to pick a victim. We are validating their false belief that they could have prevented it and inadvertently blaming them for the things that happen. And so, you get to this when you talk about how therapists unintentionally re-traumatize their clients, or worse, further entrench the subconscious beliefs. You don't have to do formal hypnotherapy for this information to be useful, because just recognizing the subconscious process that trauma takes can help keep the client safe and actually give them a way out. Because there's mistakes to be made on both sides.
Yeah.
Saying it wasn't your fault too much and then you rip away their one sense of safety, because by blaming myself, I feel kind of safe. And so if you take that away from them, now what do I got? Now I'm re-traumatized, I'm back in that moment. Or if we try and give them more resources, then we're saying they're right, and it was their fault.
And just to be clear, neither one of those is the wrong or the right way to do it. They're just techniques that, if they're implemented correctly, both of them become the right way to deal with that deeper seated trauma.
Yeah, if you don't know how trauma works, then you can't use them effectively.
Yeah.
Okay, we could probably move on to the next one. Yeah. The part about how therapists. Do you want to start this one, or should I start this one?
Sure.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm always fascinated, and I love the last presentation that we did together. There's somebody that said something that was very trance-oriented when they had a question. By the way, if you have questions, I don't think that we said that at the beginning.
Oh yeah, we love being interrupted.
Yeah.
Actually, if you have a question
As evidenced by how much we were interrupting each other.
Yeah.
If you have a question or you want to add something to whatever we're saying, just say it.
because these are really new topics. So if we get lost along the way, please.
And they said something that was that I could very easily identify that they were in a trance about something. And I said, "Did you hear that you said that?" And they were like, "I didn't say that." And I was like, and everybody in the room was like, "You didn't mean to say that?"
Did just say
Like,
that.
you did just say that.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes, even myself, this is a constant struggle. But one of the reasons why I love the hypnosis and the unconscious mind is that there's so much that comes out through trances in our daily talk. And a lot of times, if we're not trying to actively pay attention to that, this is great. I on the surface, I look like a basic white guy. I know that. Right? Everybody can agree with me about this.
They're being nice. Zach, you look very much like a basic white guy.
Yes. This may not be surprising to anybody, but I can't tell you how many times somebody that looks like me has said something like this to me because they think that it's safe. I mean, you know how they are, right? Oh, all the time. In line at Disney just a couple of weeks ago.
Damn.
Yeah. When you look like this, racists think that you're safe. And I'm always just like so dumbfounded about how comfortable people are saying some stuff. So conceptually, take that person that would say something like that to me and think about how many trances are built on trances for you to say something like, how they are to a total stranger in line at a ride at Disney.
Wild.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And I actually just felt getting frazzled by the situation because I just wanted to start a fight right there.
You didn't even say why that's particularly funny for your backstory, though.
Right. I was with my wife, who's Jamaican and black, and our son.
Yikes.
What?
Yeah. And so that principle, if we can take that, even though for maybe some of us, we would be like, that's so crazy that something like that could happen. It happens to us all the time, and every single one of us are guilty of that same principle in the unconscious mind happening. You see something that seems safe, and automatically all your trances start coming out.
Yep.
Can you define trance? Because you use it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll repeat it for the recording, but can you define trance, because we use that word a lot?
Too much.
No,
not too
I
much.
just want to know what your definition
But-
of it is.
We have a trance about what a trance is that they do not.
Right.
Yeah.
They're still consciously processing.
Yeah.
So that's probably fair. We should explain it.
You got to?
Sure, yeah. A trance is just anything that is an automatic assumption and pattern in the subconscious. So like a trance, I always put my seatbelt on when I get in the car. Right? That could be a trance. Or well, you know how they are. That's an assumption about a whole group of people that like just washes over a lot of nuance. Or, gosh, I mean, you can do anything. How you do Thanksgiving. I mean, the holidays are coming up, so like how you do Thanksgiving and Christmas. Well, you can't have Christmas without a Christmas tree. I mean, you can.
You can.
It's gonna come and go, tree or not. But people get so wrapped up in it because it's like everything's tied to it. That's what a trance is. So these subconscious assumptions. Does that help? Yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote down automated assumption, belief, or pattern of your subconscious.
Yeah.
And
So
it could-
sometimes we'll use that phrase in two ways, though.
Yeah.
Because then we'll talk about putting someone into a trance, which just means that we go into their subconscious to interact with those patterns. So we're kind of using it as like a noun and a verb in sort of a way, but both are touching on the same topic. Is that fair?
Yeah, and it could be anything from those phrases to, if you'll see me at some point, I'll probably be going like this and twirling my hair, playing with it at some point, just because it's an automatic trance that is something that I picked up.
Yeah.
And so it could be anything from a look. You just did something that my wife does all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Breathing.
Yeah. Pointing with my lips.
Another great one that I point out all the time is phrases that we say without really thinking about them. One that I was called out on when I was a student intern is my supervisor pulled me aside and he's like, who is the hypnotherapist who actually trained both of us. And he said, have you ever noticed that people say, when you say something sad, they'll say, I'm so sorry to hear that. Like a really common phrase. It's like, do you ever stop and think about like how silly or weird that phrase is? He's like, Jesse, never use that phrase with a client. I'm like, okay, what's he gonna say next? He's like, I'm so sorry to hear that. What they're saying is, I wish you wouldn't have told me. I'm sorry to hear it. You're not sorry that it happened, or you're not concerned about how they feel. The subconscious trance, because it's an automatic phrase, is I'm so sorry to hear that. So what do you think they're gonna be encouraged to do the next time they see you? I'll keep my mouth shut. So we do that all the time. And so these are the traps that therapists will walk into because they don't recognize like just the magnitude of the subconscious trances we walk around with. We get them from school and we get them from our past. And so a lot of the blind spots that we talk about in school to help keep our clients safe come from these automatic assumptions that we don't realize what level of damage they can do. Yeah.
That must have been really hard, that thing that you went through. That sounds very validating, but also depending on the trances of that person, that could be really detrimental. It could be validating on one end or detrimental and re-traumatizing.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do with clients is they'll tell me a bit of trauma, and then my interns will ask me, they're like, what should I say? Like, should I say, oh, I'm so sorry, or should I encourage them that they're strong? Like, what should I do? They're like, I don't know, it depends on the person.
Yeah.
I was like, what I do is they'll tell me something, and I'll empathize with them, like with my nonverbals, and then I'll say, how do you want somebody to respond when you share your story like that? And then I can't tell you how many people are like, I really appreciate that you said that because you didn't say I'm so sorry for you because I'm sick of people pitying me. I'm sick of feeling weak. And then other people who are like, I'm so glad that you said that because everyone just expects me to get over it because I'm the strong one in the family. And so you saying like, that's terrible. Nobody should have ever treated you like that is a moment of validation that I never get in my life. So it depends.
Yeah.
But until you recognize that it depends, you'll never be able to move into those situations with tact. We could probably go to the next one, but yeah. And for time, we'll have to, we always do this.
I know.
We always run out of time.
We started on, well, then we're gonna have to go quick.
Hypnotherapy's been around a very long time. People ask us about, is it evidence-based? And the funny thing is, EMDR and ART are actually based on hypnosis. Hypnosis has actually been used all the way back to ancient Egypt. They had sleep temples where they would do like a hypnotic induction, and you go inside and you dream about the solution to your problem. It is one of the most well-researched, like even today. We did a paper on all of the different research pieces that have been done for hypnosis, and we were going to do like a collective one, but we had to limit it to 10 years because there were too much. So if you'd like a copy of that, let us know. We'll get you that stuff. But people ask, is it
Posted too, right?
Is it validated? I think we got to find a place to put it on the website, but I'll email it to everybody. People ask about evidence-based. Yes, it's probably the most well evidence-based. We can go to the next one. Anything to add to that? Man, yeah.
I like EMDR and
That's the boring
ART
part.
because they are if you go and do those trainings, they are hypnosis. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
But they're a very like particular part of hypnosis, and they will have a lot more in-depth training about those particulars.
And that can be kind of the danger of it, is it's very systematized. There is a step-by-step process that you use. And so a lot of the referrals that Zac and I get are people who have gone to EMDR and ART and it didn't work. And so here is all this marketing that it's this magic bullet that like, heals all trauma. And someone goes through it and it doesn't fix it. And they're like, wow, I must be a special kind of broken.
Yeah.
And that's sad. And so then they come, and hypnotherapy is the underlying principle that makes these tools work. So you can use it in a much more empathetic and creative way. That's why I have been able to use hypnotherapy with dissociative identity and schizophrenia, which you cannot use those, you not use EMDR, ART with those type of diagnoses. So, laws guy.
Cool. It is very important for you to know that if you get training through us or through another organization, where that organization is licensed, there's one in Tampa, a really big one that says that they can train you to be a hypnotherapist. They can train you to be a hypnotherapist, but I actually do not suggest that if you are already going to be licensed underneath the 491 board. If you're not going to be licensed, you can go there and be a hypnotherapist. But anything under the Department of Education is not going to attach to your license, and therefore your professional liability is never going to cover you if somebody has a malpractice case against you. It has to be certified under the Department of Health. Our course
is so important.
Our course is, and it's certified for 491 nurses, massage therapists, a whole bunch of actually
Any
different
Department
people.
of Health stuff.
And the other ones are a little bit longer to meet the requirements for the Department of Education, but they sometimes do a good job about this, depending on the school. They have to teach you a lot of the therapeutic principles before they teach you the hypnotherapy. We're just going to jump right into the hypnotherapy side of things. So some of the requirements are you have to have a practical aspect to it, to where you're practicing hypnotherapy. You have to have 50 hours. It has to be on specific topics, including ethics and stuff like that.
Yeah, to satisfy the requirements, there's some things you have to jump through, and our course satisfies all of those for the Department of Health, which is important because if you get a certification under the Department of Education, your liability insurance doesn't cover it. So you can get into a whole heap of trouble because they're like, well, you were practicing hypnosis, so we're not going to cover you for this claim. And that's no good.
And there's two specialties in Florida that you can have. That is sex therapy and hypnotherapy.
That's it.
For both of those, you do, if you are licensed under the 491 board, you do have to have one of those certifications to say that you do those things.
Next one. Yeah. This is for you too.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it.
Yes, we're kind of wrapping up, coming to the conclusion. We can ask questions, and I love the questions part. But one of the things that I want to leave with this, we talk a lot about clients because you're here for education, but one of the greatest pieces of this is being in the mental health profession is very prone to burnout. We know that. But when you understand some of the subconscious stuff that takes place, it helps you interact with cases in a different way that helps you too. And anytime that I'm working with a client and I'm reinforcing and encouraging them on a subconscious level, I'm also giving myself those suggestions too, which is really, really cool. And because I'm not just kind of in this routine over and over of CBT worksheets and the treatment plan that I always run through, the work gets to be much more personal and much more fulfilling and helps me with that burnout. It's really easy to get that compassion fatigue, but this allows you to be human while you are providing somebody with the resources to get out of the situation that they're in. And so it's been great for us. And I think that I've experienced success in my practice in ways that, my colleagues and my classmates when we graduated, they struggled because it burned them out. this is a really authentic way to do it. And another big part of that is the community. And so there'll be some links that you can join. We've got a Discord server and an Instagram and a YouTube channel and like comments and stuff. And we love those interactions, even if it's just for therapists who are just interested in the topic of hypnosis. You don't have to have taken the course to be part of the community, because it can get really lonely doing that. And so if I could, I saw some people taking pictures of the slides. There's a bunch of links to like the community Discord and like the research paper that we did with all the different studies that they've done about hypnotherapy. So if you would like, it would mean a lot to me if you took out your phones and texted me. I can send you all those links. If you want to text me your email address, I can send you the PDF of the slideshow and the research paper and stuff. And when you're ready, the phone number is 321-430-5966. And tonight is date night, so I will respond in the morning. But I'll get them to you. If you put your name and your email address, I can get all that stuff to you. It's 321-430-5966. And we'll get that stuff for you. Or just say what's up. What's that? Jesse. Yeah. Jesse and last name Lyon. Lyon. We'll get you that stuff. Cool. Anything to add? Yeah, that's a good wrap up. I think we're good for questions now, right? Anything you want to add too? No? Okay. Great. Yeah.
Any questions?
Open the floor. Yeah. Questions or thoughts? Yeah, go for it.
How has this been helpful with veterans that have complex PTSD?
Yeah, the question was, how has this been helpful with veterans who have PTSD? That is very much your domain.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of veteran work.
The moral wound is the language that we're talking about a lot right now, and I really like that. You can't. I'll say it kind of roughly and abruptly. First of all, I'm not a veteran. I am a military brat, and I've been around the culture for my whole life. So there's a very particular aspect of military personnel that is there's a tool for everything. And I think that is one of the worst things that basic training can do for PTSD later. If there's a problem, there's an answer. And there's something that I can do, and if I can do that thing, then this problem will go away. And that is very much dismissive of the moral injury. And I think that there's a connection that I can make with my veteran clients on an unconscious level that can just bypass that. So I don't think that I've ever had a service member or veteran who has been in my office that we haven't done some sort of hypnosis. Just because I can usually suggest it for a symptom, then they like it so much because they don't have to think about it.
Yeah, you're playing on their trances.
Yeah.
That's the language and the system that they've got pre-programmed in there. So you speak to that language, boom, it makes sense. I get it. It's great.
For a long time, up until like the last couple of years, I was very much the person that, from a private practice perspective, a lot of veterans went to. So thousands and thousands of hours there.
Yeah.
And I don't think that there's ever been somebody that I haven't used hypnosis with.
We do have a lot of students here that are entering at the VA too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
There's a couple of therapists there that we've actually trained.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've gone through the class. It's cool. Other questions, thoughts, or follow-ups?
Don't rat them out though if you do work at the VA, because I do know that they're using hypnosis in a way that the VA has said they're not supposed to, in order to help people in ways that the VA won't let them.
Yeah. That's how it is. Yeah. Do you mind if I bring this over so I can hear it?
It's kind of a loaded question, but you were talking about how you work with people who have like complex trauma, PTSD, nightmares. I work with a client who deals with consistent nightmares every night from PTSD. So, and do you have like any like kind of like psychoeducation I could tell them, and that kind of relates to like the subconscious in a way that, you know, very like base level?
Yeah, base level stuff. Oh, I love dreams so much.
I had an answer before she said base level.
Huh?
I had
Was
an
it-
answer.
Yours was not base level?
No.
Related to them and like also make sure they understand.
Man
But-
and His Symbols by Carl Jung.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
a
But that
good
is
book,
not
but
base
that's
level.
not base level.
No, I've got some books. If you text me, I'll send you a list of books that I recommend to my clients based on how deep they want to go or what their previous experience is. But I would say at the most basic level, you could also send them the social media channels. That's also good too, because there's like PDFs you can download on my like link in bio stuff. But what I would tell them, the very first thing, I find that the trance, the assumption that people get into with their nightmares, is they start to get into a fight with their own mind. And so they're like, why would my brain do this to me? And so the very first thing, right, we cannot come to the conversation with that being the assumption that my mind is sabotaging me. And so the very first thing in the tagline of all the channels is, your mind is not against you, it's just misunderstood. And so that's the first thing. It speaks a different language. It doesn't speak a conscious language. It speaks in symbols and metaphors. And oftentimes those are inverse, right? The subconscious mind doesn't actually care about accuracy in the same way that like your logical brain does. It cares about emotional intensity. And so I have so many moms who come and talk to me and they're like, I had a dream that my baby drowned or died or was eaten. And we'll talk it through and come to find out it's about the intensity of their love for that child, because that child is growing up into a toddler. And so their infant is dying because a toddler is taking its place. And so their mind is processing this huge transition because of how close they're connected to their baby. And it's trying to say, hey, it's time for us to start treating them different, because if we keep treating a toddler like an infant, we're going to encourage some bad behaviors. And so the mind is trying to warn them. And so I would say whatever your client is going through, I know those nightmares are tough, but it is the brain attempting to heal from the trauma. We know that about sleep. Like sleep is so restorative. So if you can come to it with an open mind and process and focus on the emotions, not so much on like the specifics, that would be like the highest level piece that I would try and communicate to them. From there, you know, specifics about what the symbol is and how to interact with it, we can get into, but that's got to be the start.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Great question. Anything else? Any other thoughts?
What about people who are dissociated?
Yeah, like dissociative identity disorder, right? Like, how do you use hypnosis with dissociative clients?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Should I
Sure,
start with
go
that
for
one?
it, yeah.
I guess that's probably me. What I love about hypnotherapy is it's what's called an atheoretical orientation, right? So it doesn't have its own theory and biases to it. It is just a set of principles about how the brain processes information. So you can have a full, we call it formal trance, where, you know, they come sit down on the couch and, you know, they get relaxed, take a deep breath, close their eyes, and they're out. That's going to intensify dissociations though, right? And so that's only one way to do hypnosis. You can also do hypnosis with kids. It's called play therapy. You know, children under the age of 8 don't have a prefrontal cortex that's developed, like, or even begun to develop. And so all of the work you do in play therapy with a child 8 years old and under is hypnotic suggestions. And so that's very tangible, not dissociative at all. And we can work out processes. Art therapy is incredibly hypnotic. And so once you understand these principles, you can utilize all these different modalities to, well, interact with those clients. It's incredibly effective. One of the easiest ways that I've found with my dissociative clients, especially DID, because it can interject a lot of the things that they see in like movies or books and, you know, stories, is to use those stories as the metaphor and the hypnotic material to process their emotions. And it's like very tangible. They're just telling me, they think they're just telling me about their favorite movie, but we're working through trauma without them knowing it. So that's great. Yeah. Does that answer the question? Great.
Have there been like people who you've not been able to hypnotize?
Ooh, we get that one every time.
Yep.
Yeah. Have there been people that you have not been able to hypnotize? No. Resoundingly. Huh?
I was going to say, at my grandma's funeral,
Yeah. Yeah.
that was really, really dark.
That's pretty.
She was dead. I couldn't hypnotize her.
Yeah. Yep. There's only,
Sorry.
I think there's only 4. I love it. I wouldn't change that at all. I think there's only 4 types of people that you can't hypnotize. One is those who are not alive. Grandma. Rest in peace, Grandma. We miss you. You can't hypnotize kids because they're always already unconscious, like pre-8, you don't have to do anything. They're already unconsciously reacting. That's why they have tantrums. 3, those who have like Alzheimer's or dementia, they can't focus. And so somebody who is already like lost brain functioning, you can't navigate through conscious to subconscious because those synapses are not working in the same way. So that's probably the only one that you really can't do it with. And the final one that people will say is antisocial personality disorder because it lacks the empathetic connection in order to gather attention and deepen someone into a trance. But I've hypnotized many individuals who have antisocial personality disorder, and I work with them a lot. The way that you do it is they can't empathize with me, but I teach them how to hypnotize themselves, and they can empathize with themselves. And so they can get to the same stuff, but the process is different because I don't want them to rely on me. That system doesn't work the same. I want to give them the tools for them to facilitate their own therapeutic work, which if you think about it, like it's just such an amazing suggestion. Like to be able to suggest to somebody that I can teach you the tools so you can do this yourself. You don't even need me, right? So those fears about connecting with somebody again, of like having a vulnerable relationship, it's like, no, it's fine. You don't even have to know who I am. You got this. I just need to teach you the tools.
And narcissists eat that up.
Oh yeah, they love that. They're like, I am the best. And I'm like,
You're
you
right.
are the best. We'll deal with the repercussions later. We'll talk more about that. Yeah. Any other questions? These are great. These are great.
How, how many sessions do you usually do with a client? I know it varies from person to person.
It does,
But,
yeah. How many sessions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but like, okay, but to get through like deep trauma, does it happen in session 1 itself or the first session? Or does it like go?
Yeah. I have my answer. Do you want to say yours?
Yeah, I mean, it does, and it does very much differ.
Yeah.
I think that the biggest like indicator of how many sessions is going to be how accepting they are of the unconscious mind
How suggestible.
and how suggestible they are there. That's a better, probably the best indicator.
Yeah.
Some people that are very, very suggestible, very open to it. I had the one story about a client that after like 35 years quit smoking after one session.
That's a good one. I had one who actually also a referral from substance use, at the Advent Health. Lifelong alcoholic, like just all sorts of like crashing through windows and like lost his kid and all this stuff. And, come in one session, really deep, really fast. I had the right suggestion because I listened to the story and I thought I found it, and I did. In one session, they never drank again. And I was like, I found the trigger. Like I found the right thing.
And going to the military, you asked the military thing too, is what'll happen a lot of times is that somebody will come in for a specific thing.
Oh yeah.
And I had this client years ago that really stuck with me. He came in and his battle buddy was killed right in front of him in a really horrific way. And so we're dealing with the symptoms, and I was like, we did some hypnosis. I don't really think that this is really what this is about. This is not that identity that was ripped away from him. And then we got to a point where he literally did come out of the trance when we were there. He looks me straight in the eye and he just starts breaking down. And he says, which was very shocking, but this is another example of a couple of things that we've spoken about. He goes, I don't know how many children I've killed.
Oh, that's a good story.
And the thing is that he was a machine gunner on a Humvee when they were attacked by a group of children. And what was happening with his battle buddy was a metaphor for what was happening with his kid, who he had the association that is his child was the same age as a child that he killed in Iraq. And that was the association, the identity of, am I a good dad? And so it took probably 20 sessions to get to that point. And when we did, it was just a couple more sessions until he really opened up and felt some healing after that. So it's really tricky.
Because it depends. Again, like we're interacting with stuff and beliefs that a client has formed and holds on to in order to keep themselves safe. So asking them to let go and replace that needs to be done patiently and at the client's own pace, because if you rip that Band-Aid away, if you rip that scab off and open up that wound before it's ready, you can do a lot of harm. So I know that like a lot of other of these like evidence-based approaches like brag about how quickly they can heal trauma, but I just think that is such an uncaring, unempathetic, and disrespectful way to interact with trauma. It's like, I will be here and take as long as it takes. I ain't going anywhere. If you're good and ready, one session, we're done. I've got some amazing cases under my belt. I can point to those. I've done it before. But if it takes us 5 years, I'll be here the whole time. And I think that's what...
It's also a privilege that we have being in private practice that somebody else might not
This is true. Sometimes, we got to do with what we got. I think the client-facing response that I often get is people ask like, this hypnotherapy stuff seems cool. How long is it going to take? Fair question. And so I'm like, it depends on your brain. But here's what I can tell you. You will feel different after the first session. And that's always happened. I've never had somebody who doesn't feel different and a level of improvement after the first session. How long to get all the way through and how many like unknown extra layers of trauma we have to dig through to get to that one that you've identified, I don't know. We got to open it up and look. But you'll feel different after session one. I would say, when I talk to people, they're like, yeah, but like really how long? I was like, I would say give it a good 6 to 8. You'll see some significant improvement after 6 to 8. That's great. If you're super fast, super suggestible, then, maybe we can go quicker. But I would start with that, and then we'll reevaluate how long it's going to take. It's kind of a good client-facing response. Yeah. Anything else? We're probably good to wrap up. I'll let you get back to your class here. But yeah, go for it. Come over here.
Finish it. So do you see populations that are like of the immigrant population that have dealt with crossing the border, but then they also have something that they aren't diagnosed with, like something like ADHD or some sort of like learning disability. So normal therapy doesn't work for them, but their trauma is a little too complex for it to come out and they can't focus. Like, how does that work in hypnotherapy?
Like, where's the intersection between maybe like trauma and ADHD as an example?
Yeah.
We both do a lot with that. From a foundational perspective, I think that ADHD, autism, all of the so we're calling it now neurospicy diagnoses, are probably more better described in my head as personality types. And how I think is, I think that it is genetic and that you can't get it from Tylenol.
What? Could have kept all those.
But there also needs to be an inciting factor. There needs to be something that lights it on fire. In a lot of the low needs diagnoses. And that's where it gets most complicated. And where you have the overlap the most. I don't think that I've ever, from a practical perspective, ever seen a diagnosis of ADHD where there hasn't also been trauma, but it's like a chicken and the egg situation. Was this person traumatized because they were ADHD? Probably. And that exacerbated the symptoms. So that doesn't have anything to do with your question. Yes, and I think that we have to pay attention to both of them, which is why hypnosis is so important, because we can let go of a lot of the cognitive processes that have been created to make it so that that person feels safe in a world that wasn't made for them. And when we can take all of that cognitive stuff away and just deal with the unconscious stuff, especially for ADHD, therapy happens a lot quicker.
Great answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, great answer. I would say I don't think I've had that client specifically because that's like a pretty unique, set. I have had clients who are struggling with the current like political climate and immigration. I've had clients who are struggling with the differences in culture. I've had clients who have neurodivergent and some combinations of all those things. And each one has its own assumptions and trances that have to be kind of, sort of dissolved and reworked in a way that actually like fits for them and is functional. So yeah, maybe not all of them together in one client specifically, but all of those topics certainly. Yeah. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah.
I'll say, being a guy, I get a lot of people like my uncle, who is not my uncle, because I also grew up in the Caribbean. It is my uncle Caleb has ADHD and a ton of trauma. He works in politics in Haiti, and has been a civil rights activist here in the States. Black man. For this guy who has beat me with switches and belts and windshield wipers, who I also love very dearly, I cannot use the same techniques that I would for somebody else with his trauma. He's going to be like, no. So
That's true. I've had those clients.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that there's a way to hypnotically talk in the culture that is really important.
Yeah.
And so
That's why hypnotherapy is so good because it's so adaptable. You don't have to go through the system. It's like, oh, I get your culture. I'm learning about it. We can still do that because we just apply the same principles in a way that's authentic.
you'll find the trances in the culture though.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what we grab and hold on to and use in trance work.
I had like one client who was like middle school on the autism spectrum and super ADHD, and both of the parents were philosophers, like PhD at the university philosophers. And this person would just talk with the biggest words. You couldn't get a word in edgewise. I'm like, how am I going to hypnotize this person? And it was just, I just started speaking faster and with bigger words that I would purposely mess up, but I said them in a way that it didn't sound like I messed up. Like I was very confident in the way I said them, and they had no idea what was going on. So it like bypassed the conscious, and they're just like, it was great. I was like, okay, I get it. Like I get your culture. Like I'm understanding it. Let me use a type of induction that will work for you. And then they're just, boom. And they're like, oh my gosh, okay, I got to come back because I got to think about some things. I was like, great. I'm really glad. Cool. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for hosting us. This has been great. Hope to hear from you. Send us a message if I can do anything. If you just want to chat, get connected with the group of therapists and other social workers and stuff. Let us know. Like it's important.
Well, we're having on the 25th.
Yep. I was going to text them all about it too.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
we've got an open house on October 25th. Breakfast and coffee is provided. It's like 9 to noon. The first part is like networking with other therapists. We do a lecture about a topic like a little bit deeper into hypnotherapy. And then the last hour, those who are in the course have to demonstrate hypnosis. And so if you want to like experience it or practice it, that's a great place to do it. And so, come and go as you want. If you want to stay just for the networking and then leave after the first hour, that's great. If you want to like see the whole thing, that's awesome. If you want to come late, that's great. It's very casual, but it's a great place. I mean, it's a big event and we have a really good time. And that's in Winter Park. I will text you the details of the address and stuff, but October 25th, Saturday morning, just to put it on the radar. Cool. Thanks everyone. I appreciate you hosting us.